Hi, it's Hazel. Welcome to my channel, Hazel and Aka Design. Thank you so much for joining me. It makes me all warm and fuzzy inside to know that you're here, whether you're brand new or whether you are a returning viewer. Oh, and I should remind you that a creative mess is better than tidy idleness. Some time ago, I did a video on deconstructing a Reader's Digest journal with the intention of turning it into a planner. And I showed you Exhibit A, which is this one that I had done for 2023. I love it. It is, obviously we know what size Reader's Digest are. They're fairly compact. I included a pocket, front and back. You can see that it's not at all gussied up in any way. It's basically my version of a bullet journal. And let me just quickly find a page at this. I love a month at a glance. So I put this sort of thing in when I'm about to start a new month. Anyway, that is what I did last year. So in the video that I had done about a month or so ago, this was the book that I had taken apart. I thought it was kind of apropos because we are grain farmers. And so if you'll remember, or if you saw the video where I did my Christmas journal out of a Christmas card box, it was somewhat of a blooper reel. So I thought, let me do more of this off camera and then just talk you through it. So, where is it? At the start of the process, the spine was intact, but of course you can see it has some pretty significant cracks in it. And as I kept manipulating it, it eventually broke off. I tried to sort of trim the edges and make it more, more even, but I see I need to do a bit more work. My intention here, I think, is to back this with something. It's got that kind of natural curve in it. I will back it with something significant, cardstock, I guess, and turn it into a bookmark and hope that these cracks sort of close up and so on. So that's that. Anyway, that meant when that thing broke off, that meant that I need to make a spine. I had also shown you at that time that I had this very beautiful paper, lovely color, tiny little grid. I'd say that's 1/8 of an inch. Some lined parts, and just a combination of those things, as well as obviously a thrifted bullet journal that I had taken apart. So I thought that would be my intention for pages. I counted that in the last journal I had 4 signatures with 10 pages each, which total of 40. But I also know, and that will, I started, where am I? Okay, there's my bookmark. I believe that I have enough space to finish the year. However, it would be unfortunate if I didn't. And I also know myself well enough to know that if I'm gone for a week, I'm not making any entries. I will do a summary, like from this day to this day, Canmore, blah, blah, blah. Short on information. So there are big chunks of the year that are not actually recorded. So I thought, well, I should make it a little bigger. Anyway, then I knew that this is a kind of an unusual color scheme. Sorry, my nose is ready to drip here. I'm still fighting this cold sore. And I cold sores are nothing to fool around with. I think in the past I've always kind of considered them an aesthetic thing, you know, and a pain in the butt, but they can be a bit serious, and they can be an indication of maybe a body that is getting run down. So I'm trying to catch up on some rest here and pamper myself a little bit. Anyway, kind of a difficult color scheme. So I'm thinking, okay, well, clearly I have to cover the spine inside and out. What am I going to do? So I just went through some of my fabrics last night. You'll notice the lovely Marie Kondo folding. And I thought, well, any of these could work. I'll just kind of show you my thought process. So that's not bad. Could work in a pinch, but didn't make the cut. I had this, which is almost like an upholstery weight, and I have covered, I've covered a bench cushion in this. Even that side probably could have worked, but I thought, well, that's a bit humdrum, isn't it? So that didn't make the cut. And it's kind of an oddball piece, although I'm sure I've got yards more somewhere. I had this. This is obviously out of a sample book, and this, I don't know that it's actual silk, but it certainly has that Dupioni silk look to it. But between those holes, this isn't enough. So I think just to be the, to walk the talk of use it, don't store it, I will make sure that I use this somewhere inside. Then I really love this fabric for some reason. Now, I don't know if it's because it's got those purple tones in it, purple and, say, copper, which are, you know, my thing. But I thought that it sort of picked up on the blues. And certainly there's enough here to do what I needed to do. I also came across this one. And trust me, I had just gone through 2 small drawers of small pieces of fabric. Who knows what I might have found if I would have kept looking. And I thought, okay, this works too. But it didn't make the cut. I kept looking, and I found this. Now, I don't know if you can tell or not, but there is a stitching line here. This had been... and this is essentially the size it was, which is, this would have been an 8 by 8 square. Excuse me. So I'd obviously removed the stitching, and whatever was on the back I have somewhere as well. But I thought, okay, that is good. So I'd cut it lengthwise, and that's what I used inside so far. I also found this piece of paper, which, and this is the Ex Libris and back page. So you can see that that really works beautifully. And I thought I might use this scrapbooking paper inside. And of course, even cut it to size before I realized that, no, I think I'm going to go fabric instead. Excuse me. Oh, and here's my little template. Now, I've made a number of journals. I've done them a variety of ways. And I think this is the first time I've tried this method. So let me just show you. This is what, I've used half of this fabric in here. Now because, and this is, I didn't do anything to this just so that I could show you. I made this spine out of some packaging, but I doubled it up so it would be twice as thick as this. And then I made my holes. Well, first of all, I made a template. This time I'm using 5 signatures as opposed to 4, 5 times 10. which meant that if I had have stuck with the width of the spine, it would have probably been, it wouldn't have closed nicely. So I increased this. This is, and you know, why I did this is beyond me, but it's about, is it 1 7/8 or something crazy like that? Like, why not make it 2 inches just for easier math? But no, I didn't. So, of course, if you're making your first journal, you want your template to be exactly the same size, height, and width, so that things work out properly. I know there are people who deliberately make more signatures just so that they end up with an odd number. Let's face it, if a book has more signatures with fewer pages, it lies nicer than a book with fewer signatures and more pages. Maybe easier at the sewing in and the math part, but not as good a final product. So some people will increase the number of signatures till they have an odd number, simply because it makes some of this math easier. Let's keep the T at the top for, let's keep the T for top at the top. And basically just a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. So you find your center. What I use is this centering ruler. Is there a name on here? It's not a Lottie-Da Tim Holtz or anything. It says Alumacolor. Anyway, you find your center and then evenly, you know, divide the remaining space for your signatures. So that's that. All I did this time, instead of fighting with that Tyvek tape that I used last time that was so wide and so red, I used masking tape. Now this it's whiter than traditional masking tape. It says it's Duramax, which I guess is a brand name. Don't know where or when I got it. It's, I'd say 1.5 inches in width. And so that's what I used to attach my spine to my 2 covers. Ran it over the edges, top and bottom, but this is obviously white. So when I glued the fabric down, there would have been that little white edge showing. So I ended up, I don't know, can you even see? Well, I guess you can see from the wrong side. I just sort of dirtied that up a bit with my brown brush so that there wouldn't be this glaring white thing. And I also added a teeny bit, well, not a teeny bit, as much as I needed, which is, I guess, 4 inches, of this narrow lace to gussy it up a bit, but also to help disguise that area. And in the case of this book, because it had this sort of, whatever this stuff is, it's not leather for sure, I just use that as my starting and end point. So that is 4 inches across. And you can see that once I finish stitching this stuff in, I have exactly enough to cover up my threads. I seem to keep defaulting to this, which is a nice neutral color. Now it says it's Mercer, Crochet, JP Coats, size 5. And when I do the pull test, it does not crack or it does not break. So that's a good thing. So because I did the spine the way I did, it meant that none of my holes were going to show. So after I glued it down, I just took an oversized needle and poked holes through the fabric with the needle so that I have some place to aim my needle and not, you know, turn it into kind of a pincushion look. So I started, and this was, I think, a tip. I don't know who I picked this up from, maybe Pam at the Paper Outpost. I started at the back with my first signature. I don't know. I didn't expect anything to go wrong, but so let's just put that aside and I'll show you my remaining signatures and what my thought process was there. Now, I will say that yet again, I have an issue with pages extending beyond. Excuse me. So I don't know what it's going to take. Like, I was cognizant of, this is music composition paper. So you can see it's a wide thing. So just to be on the safe side, now this is the center of the signature, which we know pushes out further than the outer part. I did it, you know, this fancy double fold here. That's great. The what do you call it? Bullet journal paper was slightly too tall, so I folded it up 2 or 3 rows of dots. Easy. And easy to keep it relatively straight. However, we can see that that paper is also a little wide, which means I'm probably going to have to go in and one by one trim these things down or tear them, I guess. Although I don't have any torn edges here this time. Or fold it in. These pages were pretty well perfect, although they could have stood to be a smidge wider. Well, I'll show you on an unsewn in signature the pages I actually used. I wanted to keep it really simple and clean. So I have my other signatures taped together and the holes punched. I think I showed you, did I show you this? That I used this crocodile to make the holes, and I used the 1/8 inch hole. Now that tends to make, you know, a 1/8 inch hole, a fairly big hole, especially for a thread as thin as this. However, by having a nice clean cut hole, you avoid the whole poking around business of trying to get your needle through, and oh, it's a little tight. So I think there's less damage done to the papers with this. But again, not everybody has crocodile, so that's fine too. So I have these other signatures clipped together, ready to go. Whoopsie. And I have them stacked beside me here in reverse order. So not that there's anything special about the order. It's just I wanted a bit of variety. And, you know, it never hurts to double check and check yet again that your papers are right side up. I know that at least I found one. Now, was it one signature that I had upside down or whatever? It doesn't hurt to do that. So let me just show you. This is a long piece of ledger. Again, there are many ways to fold it. I could have folded this in half, and no doubts in other signatures I probably did. Excuse me. Now, I didn't want to cut this off, and I didn't want to cut off this side, so I just left it as such. Now, when I come to actually write on these pages, if this is kind of a nuisance and it's in my way, I can just easily snip along there and I have this thing fold down. So, again, I know that the closer to the inside of the signature the pages are, the narrower, excuse me, the narrower they need to be. On some of these, now I had deconstructed some kind of a thing, and sometimes the holes, even if you do a good job of it and you cut the strings and so on, sometimes the holes that are left are weak in the paper. And you can see that there are many, many places where this had been attached. So I thought, okay, I have some washi tape. It's beautiful. It was probably part of an assortment. There wasn't very much on the roll. What am I saving it for? Use it, don't store it. So I reinforced all the pages that I thought needed it. This is a piece of lovely linen textured, oh, I don't want to really take this apart. Let's see if I can figure it out. It's some kind of a guy who's a professional corporation. So it was obviously somebody's business stationery. So I'm using that. I thought that bluey gray sort of fit with some of the other colors. This is another, or is that the same? I think that might be the same washi tape. I basically had 3 rolls that I was dipping into. Now some of these papers here, the bullet journal papers, had quotes. So typically an upper tuck is not that useful. However, I didn't want my quotes to be hidden or upside down. So this one says, be open about falling apart. It's what will keep you together. So again, this is another lovely washi tape with these architectural features and some faces. So I did all of that. Oh, and then on this music paper, composition paper, there were essentially 2 staple holes. Sometimes I just did a little smidge of this office stationery, or not stationery, but office type stuff, clips and so on, just to, for a bit of decoration, not because the holes necessarily needed to be there. Okay, so this is my middle signature. So maybe just in case you're fascinated by the idea of sewing in signatures, I will do one just for the heck of it. Now, typically, the rule is, why isn't this drawer closing? Typically, the rule is that you sort of, measure 3 or 3 and a bit times the height of your book to get the proper length of thread that is needed. I did switch to a needle with a bigger eye, but this still is a bit of a pain to thread. Should have pre-threaded the needle too. Oh my goodness. Let's get a fresh end here. So the reason I picked this project back up, I knew I was going to do at least a second video about this, but the reason I picked it up when I did is because, wonder of wonders, I got a call from a hospital yesterday, well, a clinic at the hospital, saying, first of all, she identifies herself. I said, oh my God, let me revive myself with smelling salts. Because I've been on a wait list for, I don't know, it's a good 2 years and possibly longer. So she laughed and laughed and then did tell me that, yes, after all this time, I have an appointment in January, beginning of January. Oh my goodness, we won't be showing any kind of sewing in if I can't get this threaded. Oh, there we go. So I typically pull through, enough just so it doesn't unthread it at the most inopportune time. Anyway, so I thought, okay, January dates are going to start coming up now. Wouldn't it be nice if I had my planner ready to go? Okay, so anyway, she said, would you like to keep the appointment? And I said, well, yeah. And And I said, is it with a living, breathing doctor? And she says, yes, and she's so nice, blah, blah, blah. She says, sometimes people are so angry at us that they don't even want their appointments. I'm thinking, holy cow, that's got to be some kind of an attitude. Wait for a couple of years and then say no in the end because you're PO'd at somebody. Okay, so the way I do this, 9.5 out of 10 times, I want my knot on the inside. So that means that's where I start. And I start in the center hole. Now, you probably can't see this, but I can, luckily. There's this tiny little hole that I've made in the fabric so I can see where I'm going. So I go through. Then I guess this is, I was saying about 3.5 times. I'm now so adept at this that I don't bother pre-cutting. I leave it on the roll and then there's less waste. So I'm going to I typically then go to the top hole, and you can see almost before I've turned this around, the thread has gone through there. So, and this, normally there wouldn't be all this, but because I didn't pre-cut it, that's what you get. So then the next step is to run all the way to the bottom hole. And I should maybe backtrack if you're a new journal maker. Typically your hole is going to be in the center. Now, because my pages are all relatively uniform in size, I didn't have to worry about where my top and bottom holes should be. I just randomly picked an inch. However, if I would have had all kinds of oddball sizes, like maybe a smaller page or an envelope or, typically the rule of thumb is that you want your holes, in other words, your thread, to catch something in at least 2 places. Because if you don't, there can be that, sort of shifting. So I'm now going down through my... Now, if this is your first time doing this pamphlet stitch, it would probably be simpler to pre-cut your thread rather than have, these extras to worry about. So I've gone out through the bottom hole, and now I'm going back in through the center hole. And sometimes if your hole isn't that neat or whatever, you can just pull away a bit so you can see where you're aiming. And then I pull that up. Typically at this point, I would take my needle off. Now, I don't need tails this long, so I'll pull on this, and you'll figure out soon. Just got these new nails. You'll figure out which one to pull to make those adjustments in the length. Now, the other cardinal rule, and I don't think nobody should try to break this one, is that you must have one tail on either side of this this center thread. So you can see that I have that. Now this is probably still too long, so I'll probably adjust a bit more. And then what I do is I pull these threads in the opposite direction. Now, it seems to me, and the other thing I do is I take a quick look here and, oh yes, I did stick to the right row of holes, and I did it, all the way through. So I don't have any cockeyed things happening back there. So, typically it's 3 knots, 1 over, 1 under, and then, well, whatever your third one wants to be, I guess. Now this is probably still too long, but you do need a bit of a bit of stuff to work with, a bit of material to work with in order to be able to tie those knots. So, and it is a thing of beauty. Let me check the time before I decide if I keep talking and keep going here. Well, we're at 30 minutes. I don't know that I need to do the others in front of you. I mean, I could do one more, I guess. Again, because I love this paper, these scraps. I don't even know what this is. I like the blue side better. Anyway, I will find a way to use these. Like maybe this is where I would put my name and the year that this is covering. It is very handy, I've found, to have a pocket. No, I don't know that I would want my pocket to cover that, so maybe it'll be narrow, or maybe it'll be one of these. Need a bit of trimming there, because I would typically want it just to be the same size as this light green paper, blue-green. So I have a few odds and ends, so I'll figure out a way to use them as well as this. So that is my plan. I also said I would use this somewhere. So I guess it's less it matches less on the inside than it does on the outside. So who knows? Maybe I'll do something fancy on the cover this year. Although I do like the fact that it's kind of a plain Jane utilitarian book, because it does get handled every single day. So, okay, let's do one more signature. Now, I don't know what the heck the reason is. I line up my pages, I clip them 4 places, I use my little doohickey template, I use my this thing, Crocodile. Now, of course, you can see that that is what comes down. But in order to have all that lined up, you're kind of looking at it sideways and whatever. I don't know why. Sometimes what looks pretty darn good on the inside looks less so on the outside. So this one I'd say is right on. This one, you know, these two are slightly off, which of course will make a difference in the end. It's not enough to, you know, scrap the project and say, I'm never making another journal again. But it is sort of one of those confounding kind of things that, so I don't know what the answer is there. And I guess if you do, clue me in. I'm just trying to thread the needle so that I can show you one more signature. Sewing in of one more signature. So I really hope, like, I don't know about where you are, or what you have access to, or what you have in your stash. I hope that you have selected a book that will meet your needs. Oh my God, for 2024. And are, you know, taking this opportunity to prep for that and get your journal ready. So again, going in from the inside, aiming for that center hole, coming through the top hole from the outside, going all the way down to the bottom, aiming in the right hole. And I would defy you to find a journal maker who hasn't either sewn into the wrong row of holes and or put some pages or even an entire signature in upside down. And if you find that person, let me know. I want to hear who that is. So I've checked the back. Holes are right. I've got a string on either side, and I'm tightening. In the last, what was the last thing I did? Was it maybe that Christmas envelope journal? I used some waxed linen thread. I think I bought it at Michael's initially. And I have to say, there is something nice about using that because there is a lot of grip that comes with that. Now, in my little pouch here, where I keep all my supplies, I have a variety of things. I have, okay, what is, oh, waxed cotton jewelry cord. I don't know what this is because I typically cut the packaging off, make it smaller. I have dental floss in here, I'm sure. I have upholstery thread in some basic colors. This is really thin, but it's as strong as can be. And I also have this chunk of wax. Now, typically I don't stop to wax the, okay, what is this now? Natural. This is kind of a coarser thing. Oh, it's hemp. This is the wax stuff. Yeah, there is a certain amount of grip that comes with the waxed thing, so I don't know. I guess it probably wouldn't hurt to run one's cords, no matter what kind they are, over the wax just to make sure that there's that additional grip. But I didn't in this case, and I guess I think things are fine. So the only thing, well, after I've got my fifth rather, another thing people do, but this is honestly lying pretty nicely, is basically just sort of flatten the signature either as a whole or, page by page, depending how much you want to fondle your papers. The last thing I'll have to do after this is, of course, glue that piece of fabric down. Now, because it's thick, it's almost, I don't want to say it's flannel because it's not. It almost feels like ultra suede or something. Where the heck is the end of this? Oh, one thing I forgot to do, because, sometimes attention spans. I was thinking, even though I have a beautiful bookmark that I use every day in my current planner, oh, for heaven's sakes, one thing I thought about doing, but of course I didn't jump up to go get the piece of ribbon, was to glue in a ribbon under this piece here so that I would have a ribbon bookmark that just gets moved from day to day. Again, would have been nice. I would have picked dark brown, probably a grosgrain ribbon, because it's got some, some substance to it. Forgot to do that. But it is something, obviously, that if you wanted to do, there is a time and place to do that. And if you miss that boat, then you're kind of SOL. So I'm looking forward. Well, I was going to say I'm looking forward to starting a new book, but that means starting a new year, and somehow, I don't know how you feel, but it sure feels like, excuse me, 2023 really flew by. I know that there's this common wisdom that says the older we get, the faster the years go by. Certainly if a person was, say, 13 and, you know, waiting to turn 14 so they could get their learner's permit, their driving learner's permit, or they're waiting to turn 18 because theoretically that means they're an adult, or theoretically that means, not theoretically, and factually it means they can go into a bar. Then time, it's like time stands still. Okay, are we top side up? Yet for adults, time seems to just fly by. So I think I'm not alone in thinking that December, what? I'll just finish this. I'll use this opportunity to remind you that I have a number of journals listed in the Traveling Crafters Makers Market. That is linked in the description box below. I do have an Etsy shop. I have a moose who is my mascot. Let me bring him in. He didn't make an appearance yet today. It's too bad that I always have to tip him on his side, because otherwise I don't know what... Anyway, he is... I was going to say he's gorgeous, but maybe that's stretching him. He is substantial. He is regal. He is majestic. And I'm still welcoming suggestions as to what to name him. And what else? Oh, I told you that a creative mess is better than tidy idleness. I am in the process of consolidating my Christmas stuff. I don't know that I will completely finish the 2 binder journals that I've... Oh, way too much thread. I hate wasting. I might just save this to put through a tag or something. Anyway, put my needle away. Oh yeah, I was saying, I think that, like, I'm kind of done with Christmas. So I think I'm going to be relieved to have all of this stuff out of here and be able to move on to something different. And that is part of the reason why I'm choosing to do this. Okay, this baby is done, but you can see I got a couple culprits sticking out here. Oh, this is that guy's professional corporation. Okay, Mr. Moose, you have to go over here. Yeah, it doesn't say what he does. This is easy enough. Just fold it over. Whoops, that was crooked. See, I don't like that. So I'm going to be either trimming or refolding. Yeah, it's pretty well all these. Oh, see if I fold this, if I cut this one off, that quote goes. Set a deadline. Positive stress helps achieve impossible. So, oh, here's another one. Moment plus moment equals momentum. Oh my goodness, isn't that clever? So, okay, by the time you see, or if you ever see this again, let me find the middle of the middle. Lay this thing down. So my next step will be using Fabri-Tac to glue this down. I'll pick the nicer edge for the top. Slather on the glue and make sure, using my bone folder, make sure that I get into those little, see, rather than throwing these pieces out, I'm going to be handling them and getting tangled. Let me throw them out now. Make sure I get into that dip. And I think it's really nice. Makes it a bit of a no-brainer for the maker to have these two edges as guidelines, because I know that if I line this up, I'm going to have the same amount on either side, on each cover, and I don't have to make marks or do anything like that. Now, you can see that if I want this to butt up to the edge here, now maybe I'll go, see, I think I need a little more darkening here. If I can extend this just a smidge past the edge. There is a wee bit of fraying that happens, but not much. I will have to trim at the top. So maybe I'll line up the top. Let's darken that a bit. Where did I drop that brush already? Then if, you know, anything untoward happens with the trimming, it'll be at the bottom of the book, not the top. And again, I don't want to say it doesn't matter because it's for me, because, hey, I deserve good. I deserve my best work. Just as you do if you know, buy a project from somebody. You deserve their best work. So I will do my best to make that beautiful. This is probably firm enough that it could be a pocket. I'll have to think about that. Maybe just for the heck of it, one day I'll show you how I finished it off. But anyway, guys, I'm going to stop there. Oh, and I have to do something with this. That paper is too short unless I cut the... Anyway, I'll keep working, and I hope you do too, because of course our work is actually play disguised as work. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are enjoying the content, please make sure that you subscribe. Please make sure that you give me a thumbs up, and please comment. If your name, first name, is not apparent from your handle, then identify yourself so I can greet you by your first name. Oh, and the other thing you should be aware of is the Happy Mail movement. I did a video, and you'll see that one before you see this one, about receiving my first 4 envelopes. So I really hope that you choose to take part, because it is fun for both of us. And maybe now I'll go and get out of my pajamas. Okay, see you guys. Bye.